I would like to personally greet each person here. It was great meeting everybody. I'd like to welcome Dan and Sean and Sig and Dan and Lorelei and Rob and Christy and Branson and Don and Mike and Troy and Tom and Christy and TJ. Oh, sorry. Oh, and Tammy. There we go. I thought I could. Hey, did you see that?
That's pretty awesome.
I know what you're thinking now. Good looks and brains. Maybe not. Well, has this ever happened to you? You go to an event, you meet someone, they tell you their name, and then 5 seconds later, you've forgotten who they are. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if you could simply reach into your memory and retrieve the names of everyone that you meet at an event, no matter how many people? Who would like to be able to do that? You demonstrate care and commitment to these new prospects. You show yourself to be a competent business and sales professional, and they'd remember you because you remember them. That would be wonderful. Now, everybody, of course, would like to be able to do that. Now, who thinks that they can do that? Okay, not as many hands. That's okay, because that's why I'm here. So, because I do not have any special memory gift, I do not have any natural talent, but I can remember more than 40 people when I go to an event. And you can too if you believe that you can learn how to do it. But names are hard because we don't go to an event in order to memorize names. We have our own agenda. Here's a sad but true story about Sue. She was a young college graduate applying for her first teaching job. She wanted to make her parents proud. So she came to the interview and was greeted by 5 men. But she wasn't paying attention to their names because she was nervous about what she was going to say. And about 20 minutes into the interview, she was asked, Sue, what do you know about John Brown? She thought about her educational training, couldn't come up with anything, and said, I don't know who that is. I've never come across that name. Yes, you did, Sue. He was the third man you were introduced to. Well, Sue was just devastated. She was shocked and embarrassed. Inside her head, she was thinking, these people must believe that I would make a terrible teacher because I'm not paying attention. And she didn't get the job. But she did remember the lesson all her life. And the lesson is names are important. We should pay attention when somebody says their name. Some industries expect or even require it. But we're afraid. We don't want to call somebody by the wrong name and offend them. So instead we'll just say, hey, you. Now I know what it's like to be called by the wrong name because I grew up with an identical twin brother. So for the first 20 years of my life, I was called the wrong name. In fact, that's why when I was 16, my McDonald's name tag said Bob or Bill, because that's what people called us anyway. Now, our out-of-state relatives just called us the Minnesota Twins. But I had a cousin who called us Bob and more Bob. But now Bill's grandchildren just refer to me as Grandpa Fake. But annoyance is a bad way to start off a business relationship, right? So you want to try to avoid that. So I'm going to try to help you with that. In this presentation, I'm going to give you 3 tips and 3 techniques to help you to recall names. Now, tips can be implemented immediately. Techniques will take a little bit of practice. So first, 2 quick tips. And the first one is so zen-like in simplicity, you're going to be amazed at how I came up with this. It is remember to remember. Pretty good, huh? Deep. And what I'm talking about here is presence of mind. Like when you go shopping at the Mall of America and you park your car in the giant parking garage, not thinking that you're going to have to find it when you come back later after you're done shopping. So before you go to an event, just decide that you are going to try to remember names better, and that will help. The second quick tip is, as soon as someone tells you their name, repeat it back to them right away, no matter how simple it is, because then you're creating a memory in your mind of you saying their name, and that will help a lot. But names are hard because we are trying to create a formula that does not equate, okay? And the formula is name equals face. Well, name does not equal face because a name is a nonsense word and a face is an image. They don't equate. There's some missing variables, and I'm going to help you to fill in the missing variables. Now, I'll be presenting all this from my method that is taught in this book, Remember the Room, How to Remember Everyone You Meet at an Event. Of course, what I'll be presenting here will just be a quick inspirational overview. So the system is really simple. It's just got 3 steps. Look, listen, link. You look at the person, you listen to their name, and then you mentally link them together. Well, that sounds pretty simple, right? Especially the first part. Look, I mean, anybody can look, right? Well, you know, in this culture, we often don't really look at the person in front of us. Our church has a greeting time, and one Sunday I shook hands with a man and I said, "I'm Bob Miller, what's your name?" He said, "I'm Sam." So I looked at him because I wanted to remember him when I saw him at church again. After church, my sweet Becky and I went to Menards. So did Sam. There he was, walking down the alley right towards us. It was such a funny coincidence. I grinned real big and I waved. I said, "Hi, Sam." You know what his reaction was? You know how people, yeah, you've gotten it before, right? When people walk, they wave and keep on walking. That's what I got from him. Because, you know, he hadn't really looked at me. So when you look at somebody, you should choose one striking feature that will really stand out. And it should be a striking feature that will be more or less permanent. That means you don't necessarily look at their clothing. You should look at them as if you had to describe them to a police sketch artist. Look at their head, look at their body, look at the features, look at their eyes, their eyebrows, their nose, their ears, their chin, facial hair. Look at their skin for tattoos or scars or piercings or something that will stand out. For example, if you looked at me, you might notice that I'm follically challenged. So you could look at my bald pate, and that could be your memory cue. No pun intended, okay? But you're going to choose one feature. Then the second step is listen, of course. You listen to their name. Now, names are hard because they are nonsense words. What is a Michael? What is a Sally? What is a Lisa? They have no definition. So when somebody tells you the name, you need to convert it into an image that you can imagine that will remind you of their name. For example, if someone says their name is Michael, you could imagine and really see a microphone, like I did for you, Mike. Or if somebody says that their name is Sally, then you could really imagine and see a salad. What kind of salad is it? If someone says their name is Lisa, you could imagine a dog leash, but really see it. What's it made out of? Is it metal? Is it leather? What color is it? You have to really see it. Now, the word that you choose does not have to rhyme. It doesn't have to start with the same letter. It's whatever word will remind you of their name, okay? For example, I remember the waiter at the Mexican restaurant is called Elvis because I just imagined a guitar. So whatever works for you. So now we've done 2 things. We've made the face more memorable by choosing just one feature. Made the face more memorable by choosing one feature. Then we made the name more memorable by converting it into an image, an object that we can see. Now we have 2 objects. So step 3 was we just mentally link them together in a funny or unusual way. Why funny or unusual? Because weird is easier to remember. Boring and ordinary is not easy to remember. That's why it's hard for me to remember some of you. Just kidding. Obviously, you are all very memorable since I named everybody in the room, right? But you see, for example, we've got the Bob up here because that would remind you of my name, Bob. And so you just link them together in a funny or unusual way like that. If it makes you smile, that's great. So really, we're not talking about memory because memory is hard. We're talking about imagination. If you have a great imagination, you can have a great memory. This is not memorizing. This is imaginizing. Okay? Now, you may say, that seems impossible. Like when you hear me say that I remember 40 people, how many of you here thought, there's no way I could do that, right? Were some of you thinking that? 40 people? You know, what that is called is a self-limiting belief. You're putting yourself down by saying that. And I say, don't be so negative. Don't say I'm bad at remembering names. Say I'm great at forgetting names. No, don't say that either. Just say, I will get better at remembering names. Now, in the Eagles song, Already Gone, they sing, sometimes we live our lives in chains, not even realizing that we have the key. And when you say to yourself, I'm bad at names, you're chaining yourself up, okay? So the step is to unlock that, is to believe in yourself and say, I believe in myself. I believe that I could try it. Now, I understand what it's like to have a self-limiting belief because I had that myself. There was a point in my career where I didn't think that I could remember more than 40 people. So if there was more than 40 people in the room, I wouldn't even try. But I got over that. I said, okay, I'll give it a try anyway. And I overcame that. And now there's a YouTube video of me, an old one that you can see me recalling the names of 80 people. It's on YouTube, Bob Miller, 80 names. You could do it too if you believe that you can. And you may be saying, but does this actually work? How will I know? Well, the only way that you're going to know is if you put it into practice, which means the first step is you have to believe that you can maybe learn some of this, and then you're going to try it. But then you're going to have a very cool experience. You're going to meet somebody at an event, and then you're going to see them later, and you're not going to be certain about their name, but you're going to notice the striking feature. And that's going to remind you of the name image that you linked it to, which will remind you of the name. And then you'll have this great experience of ding, like a light bulb going off in your head. You'll say, hey, I know you, and you'll call them by name, and they'll feel great, and you'll feel great because you did something that you didn't think that you could do, and then you know the system works. But you have to believe it. Getting people to believe that they can do this is one of the hardest things that I do when I do speaking or workshops on name recall, just to get them to believe they can do it, to help them overcome that self-limiting belief, is one of the hard things. Now, is the reason that we should remember names just so that we can gain some new prospects, serve ourselves? Well, I think that there's a deeper reason. There should be, I think. When I was 19, still living at home with my parents, and after church one Sunday, I went upstairs to my bedroom and I put on a disguise, a really good disguise. Long dark hair, shaded glasses. I darkened my teenage mustache. I wore a ripped army vest with no sleeves or buttons. I didn't wear a shirt. I had a gold medallion. Really good disguise. This is a simulation of what I looked like. Obviously. Then I climbed out the window and I climbed down the tree and I knocked on the back door of the house. And I was acting like a person whose car had broken down on the highway and needed to use the telephone, which was a common occurrence at our house. And my mom was in the kitchen cooking. So I come in and to talk to her. Did she recognize me? Did my parents recognize me? No. I talked to them for 10 minutes. They did not know who I was. And inside I'm thinking, this is the greatest gag ever. It's going to be so funny when I reveal myself to them. But then after a while, I started to get a really weird feeling, a strange sensation that I'd never had before. My parents were looking at me as a stranger. They didn't know me at all. I was unknown, unloved, and unwanted by the two most important people in my life. I was really unwanted because my mom had gone into the other room and she said to my dad, there's a weird guy in the kitchen. He wants to wait here for the tow truck. You go tell him to wait by the car. So my dad came in, gave me a big grin. I thought he recognized me, but he didn't. I said, can I wait here? He said, sure. Fortunately, we had a big laugh about it. We laughed about it for about a week afterwards. And my parents had a good sense of humor, so I was happy about that. But I remember that feeling. I didn't like that feeling, that sensation. You know what? That's how people feel when they come to an event. They don't know anybody. They feel like a stranger in a sea of strangers. And so if you come up to them, you meet them, greet them, learn their name, and you call them by the name later, that's like throwing a life preserver out to a drowning person. They will feel great. So name recall is not just important for yourself because you're serving yourself and you're gaining another prospect. It's good because you're serving the other person. You're not just making a business connection, you're making a human connection. And that's the best type of business connection. Well, let's think about Sue, the college graduate. What if she had said, John Brown? Sure, it's this guy right here. It's not a guarantee that she would have gotten a job, but it is certainly a guarantee that that would have put her in the top of her category. She would have been remembered for that. You want to be in the top of your category. This is one more tool that you could add to learn this, but you have to believe in yourself. So I just want to encourage you to use your memory powers, to remember the room, to make a human connection, to make strong business and personal connections. You can do it. I believe in you. Thank you.